I mean, the reality is that cleansing is happening on a consistent basis, all the time. Out with the old, in with the new, constant. And I guess the real art is to connect to that simple fact and be very tuned to the flow of that experience itself, rather than waiting for the cleanse to happen and then enjoying when it's over. Instead, actually get into the flow of the process itself, and then you're always squeaky clean. Yeah. Thanks, Hutch. I have a question for you. What is the meaning of life? Love, happiness, evolution. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Do you want to conversate on that? Yes.
Somebody asked this question on Facebook today, actually, and the answer that was given was kittens. So that's another possibility.
Mm-hmm. Well, I believe that that's what it is a possibility. And that's the beauty of it all, is the meaning of life is open to interpretation. That's what makes it so grand. That's what makes it so meaningful. And probably that's why it has been such a pursuit for human consciousness for so long. The reason why I bring up the question is because it aids in the development of your meditation practice, the meaning, to contemplate it. What actually makes your life so meaningful? And it can be as simple as kittens. It can be as easy as just simply sitting quietly. And to understand that is to then bring the opportunity to use it as a sounding board or a gauge to your reality. We have so much that's coming towards us at a given moment. And the only thing that we can really do is embrace that which is coming towards us, but implement a belief structure so that then it helps us to process that which is coming towards us. And that belief structure should be based upon what you feel is true and what you feel is real. And it happens with the eyes open, but it also happens with the eyes closed, because what happens with our eyes closed is a series of images, thoughts, emotions that are linked to the experiences of our day. Some of the experiences within the day we really enjoy, and others we would rather not have. The objective of the practice of meditation is to give the practitioner an opportunity to see them as neutral. And that's quite a common concept right now within the practice of mindfulness, seeing everything as being neutral. And the benefit of that is we get to challenge our judgments. And once we begin to challenge our judgments, then the judgments of others are not so strong towards us. Because everything is connected, as we've talked about so many times. This inner reality, this personal one, is connected to the outer reality. And the outer reality is connected to the inner reality. So if you do work on the one end, on the one side, then it's reflective on the other. So what is good and what is bad? What is right and what is wrong? These are all concepts that are embedded within the human society and that we hold true. These statements that come out of it, we hold as being very true. But if there's any weight into what I said at the beginning when I asked the question, what is the meaning of life? Then that simple contemplation can bust apart any of those right, wrongs, goods, or bads based upon your personal philosophy. Quite potentially, with all of these individual philosophies running around, there could be a lot of arguments. So what's interesting and unique to the human experience is that as we engage ourselves and begin to just move through the layers that create our individual concepts of experience, as we move through them, we're not actually losing our individuality, but what we are gaining is an open mind to receive all of those other viewpoints as being possibilities that come from one and the same source. So now that becomes actually quite useful to a human being. It becomes incredibly useful to a meditation practice, because now we are no longer categorizing the experience or the individual who presented the experience to us. Instead, we are funneling it into one source, and that is being human. And that's very simple. So to simply be a human is then opening the door to experiencing that which is coming towards us, that which is coming through us, and taking out this right, wrong, good, bad, and coming to terms with the fact that you don't really know, so therefore you are experiencing that. And you must experience it before you can decide whether it stays or whether it goes. So that's why I was saying at the beginning, if we could just simply embrace the fact that there's constantly one coming and one going, and live in that in-between space, rather than investing so heavily into one thing, then all of a sudden we become monk-like without needing to take vows or put on the robes. We sit within the sweet innocence that is purity. The sweet innocence which is purity. And even that word purity becomes slightly daunting when we live in a society which provides everything that we could ever want, and we are curious. So we want to explore it. And from the perspective of meditation, or even from the perspective of spiritual practice, we can be really hard on ourselves and say, well, I'm not doing it right because this, that, or the other. But the purity concept for me comes from the ability to experience life from that innocent place, like a child. But innately, even a child knows when something is for them and when something is no longer for them. And to make that discernment is just maturity within that pure innocence. And so what I'm talking about is actually meditation, closing your eyes, and what thoughts are for us, what tendencies are for us, and what can we let go of. But it can be translated into every other moment of the day. And that's the great heroic versatility of a meditation practice, is that it blends itself so evenly into all aspects of our life. And how it is able to blend itself so well is because it is that fine. And it belongs everywhere. It is everything. So these big, huge questions, like what is the meaning of life, can quite reasonably be found within you through technique. Whatever that technique may be, it doesn't matter. Because what we do is we then bypass information and just get to the base of it all. So a lot of times I personally come across a lot of amazing individuals that feel like they cannot do it. Just cannot meditate. Or they cannot seem to get to that place where they feel that everything is moving smoothly, or where their consciousness is heightening to a level where they are now satisfied with the world that exists around them. And often I question why. Why is that? Why do you feel that way? Why is it not possible? And what I've concluded presently is that we have really yet, and I think now is the time where it's starting and then it's going to filter into the mainstream, but we have yet considered the mind and the brain as being something that is trained. It is so incredibly subtle and strong at the same time that the combination has convinced the individual that this is the way that it is. But it's not true. It's not the way that it is. It is the way that it is for the moment, as it is the subject and the object within relationship, but it's now going to pass. Whatever has expired and you've decided has expired can now pass. You choose what sensations occur within your body. You actually choose that. It is a choice. You are a laboratory. You are chemistry. You are biology. You are combinations, ratios, which then produce something very specific, which then you may be able to alter. If that was not the case, then there would be no possibility of maturity and evolution within the individual level consciousness. And if there is no possibility within the individual level consciousness, then the collective consciousness also would not be able to grow. But we do, and it does. So the mentality of past relatives 3, 4, 5 generations ago is very different from present. And it seems to be accelerating quicker and quicker. But I believe it's because of the contribution of inner and outer science coming closer and closer together. So inner science, yoga, Buddhism, mysticism of all kinds, working to within the final frontier, which is the human space within the mind, and outer science working equally as diligently attempting to describe and locate that one tiny little piece that quantifies God or creation. And because of those two efforts, we are quickening our ability to traverse those mental states that seem to be so fixed, which then induces emotion and behavior. So life is actually quite blissful and joyous. And quite possibly it takes an individual to realize that they are in the driver's seat. You are in the driver's seat. Like, for instance, exhale all the breath out of your body. And now take a slow, consistent inhale, just how you always do. But be a little bit more aware. And then exhale. And notice what that increase of oxygen is doing to your body and your mind. So no matter if you are in a good mood or a not so good mood, it is influencing you on a positive. So now we want to take that example and move it along as far as we possibly can. And it starts with comfort. So becoming comfortable exactly where you are. And again, this is what meditation teaches you. And in the middle of the meditation towards the end, it's about coming to terms with where your thoughts, where your emotions, where this self-identifying ego component, and where this transcending element of who you are comes from. So where inside of you is the opening of the river of thought. And you're able to locate it, you're able to define it. Even if it is so abstract that only you know what it is that you're talking about. But that's exactly what it is. And then can you now just stop the flow of your thinking? And then start it back up again? And be playful and innocent. Stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Right? If you get a new computer, or if you get anything new, you have no clue how the thing works. But yet you figure it out. But when it comes to something so intimate and so close as the mind, we say, I don't know how it works. But we have not fully taken on the task of understanding how it works and why. Same thing with the emotion. Do you have to follow that emotion every single time? Or is there a different way of doing it? And when you're ready, when anybody is ready, then they decide, okay, time for change. Or the I am, or the I. And the I am and the I is this self-identifying component that some people consider to be ego, other people consider to be will, but it is that piece that says, I am sitting here. It's that piece that allows you to sit up and allows you to explore and allows you to make a decision. The I is that which is transcending all of the mundane everyday activity and heightening in its consciousness. So now what is that part of you? And every single one of you can show me in your own way how you elevate out of the present consciousness to a higher leveled one. Give me the example, even if you've never been here before. I can catch it. And is there a particular subtle body posture? So I'm talking about the palate. Does the palate do something specific? Does the tongue do something specific? Does your breathing rhythm change? Does your spine just elongate by a nanometer? So all of those pieces which then orchestrate themselves to stimulate the nervous system, to stimulate the brain, to stimulate the mind, are breadcrumbs that are left behind the action. The breadcrumbs that are left behind the action, so that then our cognitive, receiving or observing quality will pick it up and ideally register it. We want to be able to register it. Ah, got it. And then do it again, just like how you learned how to walk. So you learned how to walk by watching. I've been through the process personally, but I've also seen the process happen. And there's a lot of watching. So what is meditation? There's just so much watching. You close your eyes, watch the back of your eyelids for a while. Okay, now that stage is over. Now, there's the thought and the story again. Watch that for a while. So there's watching already occurring. You're observing. But what is it that you're observing? Now that's the piece that is getting us to the next place. Deciding what is it that you are spending your time observing. What can be now let go, washed away with your cleansing, which happens every time you inhale, exhale. And simultaneously, just like a cleanse, what is supposed to be fortified and strengthened will be strengthened by the exact same ingredients that are washing away all that is no longer needed. Meditation is that. So every time you close your eyes and you retreat back inside, you are in fact cleansing, getting rid of everything that's no longer needed, and strengthening. So now where you place your attention becomes incredibly important. And through the developing practice as a sequence of events or as a technique, there is a concentration tool. So you would then place your attention just simply on comfort, and then move that attention then to the rhythm of your heart and how it pulses through the body, and then to the fluid. And we would just keep going until we've covered the entire body. We've made a body which is now whole and complete. And this whole and complete body is now able to house the rhythm of the breathing. But what is the breathing? The breathing is life. The breathing is the director. So in Sanskrit, there's a concept of prana. So prana is all of energy vibrating everywhere, which is then categorized in so many different subpranic movements. The body alone has many pranic movements. So in order to understand the flow of breath that moves in and out of the body, which is giving life, then it's worthwhile to follow it from the very beginning, the moment it enters into the nostrils, and how it moves through the passage, through the airway, fills the lungs and the rest of the body, and then back again. So if you can do that and follow it all the way to the edge and then back again, I can guarantee you that there's not going to be much thought of randomized thinking and stories. It's going to be very centric on the experience that expands outwards and then returns back again. And what the mind will be registering is the unique sensation that is connected to that in and out breath. And what we are doing over a prolonged exposure to this form of breathing is we're changing the base vibration of our human body, the base vibration. So now it's bumping itself up, notch by notch, notch by notch, notch by notch. And because we go through with our awareness and we are engaging in comfort, we're actually cleansing and strengthening. Cleansing and strengthening wherever the awareness goes, because it's pure awareness expressing itself. So with this clean tissue, it's increasing its ability, which is useful and pointed when we're exploring the mind, this final frontier. Because now you have buoyancy, because we have to explore all of the mind. So not just some of it. All of the mind has to become whole and complete on the same level of experience. There ideally is no dark corners that's going to come out and say boo and scare you. Everything should be safe zone in your mind. It really should, because you are that. For an extended period of time, you are the experience of your mind. So therefore, we have to become acquainted to it. So if something is scary, you should probably go and stay there for a while inside your mind. Safely, of course. Which meditation is very safe. It's so safe that it presents itself naturally. So you just simply sitting and placing the gaze into the eternal, then images will start to surface as they need to. But in such a way that it's adhering to the vibration that you have within your body based upon your ability to breathe. So if you're working from a deficit, it's going to show you images to match. But if you're working from buoyancy, it's going to show you that exact same emotion, but from a different perspective. You're seeing it from a different perspective. See what I mean? So then it can actually move a little bit quicker. And life is that much more able to sustain what you consider to be goodness and elevate and continuously moving forward. So this would be a level of absorption, the beginning stages of deeper meditation practice, when everything becomes clean and clear. So then it becomes a practice of finding that doorway, finding the doorway into the bliss. So bliss is a concept that's used quite a bit within the yogic practice. It's kind of a strong landing point. And in the West, we don't necessarily use this word bliss so much. Or maybe we do. I don't really notice it so much within even a spiritual context. Definitely not within a daily living format. But it's the elation, it's the goodness, it's the balance, it's the calm clarity that exists within the human. And it's there. Whether or not we call it bliss, it doesn't matter. But it's a heightened state. And it is always there. I'm almost positive that Mother Teresa was resting in that place on a constant basis, and that's the only way that she could do the work that she did. So it's not based upon ideal circumstance. It's not based upon that. It's based upon balanced, measured effort on the behalf of the experiencer. The experience changes. So some people are good, some people are not so good. Doesn't matter. What matters is that the way that you receive it, and then what you do with the information as you receive it. So an individual's belief structure becomes like the front of a very strong ship. And it moves through whatever it is that's coming towards it, shattering it into a billion blissful pieces. So what I'm saying in all of those words is that what you're doing with your meditation is elevating your ability to become conscious, and through that elevation of your consciousness, you're able to see your own experience as something which is intrinsically good. Seeing your own experience as not being final, but yet being something which you are going through that in a sense, you've chosen to be in, but have the choice to move out of. But with that choice, just like if I want to get an extra pack on my abdomen, I have to work at it a little bit. Or if I want to get a little bit more bulge in my bicep. Now that sounds funny, but it's very true, right? If I just keep imagining my body, it will work actually probably eventually. But if I do something about it on an active level, it'll happen right away. So now I'm letting you guys know something that you already know, and I'll probably let you know again, and maybe even again, but that your brain is completely ready to do whatever it is that you ask it to do. And your current belief system may be holding you in patterns that are no longer needed. But the good thing is that with every inhale and with every exhale, you're cleansing. With every inhale, with every exhale, you are cleansing. So within the yogic process, the most aggressive and effective way to cleanse the human being is through pranayama. Pranayama is a series of exercises that is done solely with your breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Retentions. Pumping the breath in and out of your body. But now on a subtle level, we're doing this all the time. And what the pranayama targets is the nervous system and your mind, your brain. And through the cleansing, through the nervous system, it influences the tissue of the body, which is pretty amazing. So your inhale-exhale rhythm, now framed as a continuous cleansing movement, like a river, and there's like a little paddle, if you want, that just keeps pushing the river along, more like a stream, let's say a meandering like something, so that it's good and easy. And it's just continuously moving things along. So as though you're drawing, you have a bunch of dots, and then you're just connecting them. But this dot game is really great because you can just shake it and it all disappears. You can start over again. Right? That's what happens. You decide so strongly, this is what I'm doing, and then 20 minutes later, you're not even interested in doing it anymore. Have you ever thought about that? Like, that's profound. It is amazing to me. I decide so strongly, this is what I'm doing, then all of a sudden I'm no longer wanting to do that. And my brain just organizes itself up, I'm done. So then on some level, you want that which you are experiencing. So now come to terms with it. Go to that place that is funnily, that's not really a word, but is really wanting that experience. And challenge it. Do you want it? Yes or no? Yes or no. So then that's where the rewiring can occur. So now we're in this cleanse and you definitely want something. You want that, but you are refraining from it. And now just simply deciding to adhere to this cleanse is rewiring you. You're letting go. You're letting go because you've put parameters. So now this should happen on every level. On every level. And then watch your meditation just vert like this. Straight up. Because now you're no longer watching your eyelids and the funny flicker that happens. But now you are actively engaging the most subtle forms that exist inside of you. So can you show me now? Show me the most subtle form of you. I'll show you the most subtle form of me. Ready? Go. So there it is. That's good. I felt that. I like that. And now, believe me when I say our decision that this is the most subtle is true. You just did it. But now there's an even more subtle place, and an even more subtle place, and an even more subtle place. And engaging with that subtlety maintains your ability to harness equanimity. Because whatever is coming as the disturbance, because you're looking at it from the most subtle perspective, it becomes that one thing. It becomes the one thing. Your field is that subtlety. Just like your field is whatever it is that you decide. So there's many ways. Physical activity also encourages this. So yoga is one thing. Physical movement is very good for you. But any physical movement doesn't even matter. That's part of the cleansing process. Any questions? Yeah, it makes sense. Namaste.
Patterns, really, really difficult to break. It's nice to have this sort of fellowship because I find it, as a collective, it encourages me to break patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing the talks help me break patterns. To reach that, there's the body, the mind, and then there's this watching thing. I'm not sure what it is. I guess the question is, how can we come away after these wonderful Wednesdays and carry the collective support that we get here for the next...
You do it like this. Just sit. Don't move. And go to that subtle place. Again and again and again. There's consistency. And you have to choose a target. And that's the thing with humanity. Human beings are so incredibly creative. We can go 15 different places in 15 seconds. Like, I'm going to go to Bali. I'm going to remember Bali. I'm in Bali right now. I remember the furniture. I remember everything. Okay, now I'm back here. I'm going to go to Calgary and visit my friend. No, all of a sudden I'm in Calgary. So there's an incredible dexterity. So there has to be a single point of focus. There has to be that single point of focus. And there can be so many. You just have to choose one. And whatever that is, it doesn't even matter. It can be an object that uplifts you. It can be a mantra. It can just simply be the eternal. And that's always my suggestion, because that's the end game, is to look at the most subtle form that matter can produce. And when I say matter, I mean like this is matter. Right here in front of me is matter. Subtle. And in that we dissolve it all. But now the breaking of the pattern, it's much more simple than we are conjuring. Because if you walk and then you run, you've just broken a pattern. And then if you slow down back to a walk, you've broken a pattern. Or then if you start crossing your feet and walking one way, and then you walk the other way, you've broken another pattern. So it's coming to it, in my perspective, in that innocence, in the innocence.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Namaste. That's good. I always like talking with you. You have always good questions. Anybody else? Okay. Well, shall we sit? Sit comfortably. There's some meditation chairs back there if you want to use one. Up top. And so now tonight, working with whatever stage that you are working with within your meditation, and simultaneously, if you could please just maintain your gaze to the subtlest form of the matter. And if your mind produces images for you, know that it's just simply digesting all that you've taken in over the course of your life, really, and what you hold as being the marker of importance. So if that which you are seeing is no longer important, or if it's not needed, then it is your prerogative, it is your right, it is your blessing to not have to go there any longer. And the how comes through everything we've been talking about for the past minutes. And where it starts is just being comfortable with what you see. And know that you are not any of those images, but simply they are just pictures. Pictures with feelings. And that after each picture, there is a space. And that space also has feeling. And that we focus on the space more so than the picture. So that over time all becomes one. Keeping the eyes closed, let's bring full deep breaths into the body. Keeping the eyes closed, bring your gaze into the space just there in front of you. And with soft intensity, maintain the integrity of the space. Keeping the eyes closed, soften your gaze. And now very gently, very slowly, allow the eyes to open. So this is good. Very nice. So now then, throughout the day, you can achieve this positive state. Positive, elevated state of being through connecting to the body, the space of the body, and then breathing into it. And allowing the space of the body and the space of the breath to influence the mind positively. And this is different from positive thinking. So we're not thinking our way out of it. We are actually inducing a state of mind as our new base of experience that is now elevated, higher than that which we were experiencing before. Different technique. Yes.
How do you get out from thinking negative thoughts when you're meditating?
Mm-hmm. It's returning back into that quality of space again and again. So as the thought is arising, allow it to do its thing. Pay close attention to your breathing, because always remembering that that's actually what's flowing it all through. Circulation, everything happens because of your inhale, exhale. So we focus on the breathing, and we focus primarily on the sensation that the breath is inducing. Because that sensation which you are experiencing is not the thought. Would you agree? And it's also not the emotion that's attached to the thought. It's something different. So like you listening to me, and then take deep breaths as you're listening to what I have to say. So what I have to say is the representation of thought. And it's different from the sensations that you're having right now. So in the same way, as you're looking at me, you look at the thought like that. So see how much distance is between you and I. And this distance signifies that you are not me, and I am not you, but we are now separate. And you are observing me just like I am observing you. So it's the same as that thought is observing you as you are observing it. So the engagement in your breathing will help to create buoyancy and elevate. And then the simple decision that you're no longer having that thought. You're no longer engaging in that thought. And you just keep doing that. You're no longer going there. And the same as you're looking at me and now look away. And it was just that simple. Now you're not looking at me anymore. And you've decided to do that. So the same thing is with the thought. You just decide that I'm no longer looking at that thought anymore. And then it has to be on repeat. So every day will get a little bit easier, and a little bit easier, and a little bit easier, but you return back into what you know as being real. Because right now the mind is producing something for you, but you don't quite know if it's real. And that unknown place is very hard to then challenge the thought. But you know that your inhale-exhale is a real experience, and you know that your physical body is also very real. So you move into those two places to give the strength and to influence positively the mind, so that the state of your whole mind is actually shifting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Experiment with
Breathe
it.
through it. Just breathe.
Breathe through it and decide that you're no longer going there. And then that's like working out. Like you got great, strong, but it took work to get there. You know, that's why I'm bringing it up. It takes work to get there. So the same thing with your brain is also like that. So you just keep making that connection and letting go of the other, making that connection and letting go of the other. Yeah, you're welcome. Mind muscles. Mind muscle. Elevating state. Support it through your breath. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste.